Hi, everyone. It is Kimber, the Study Abroad Specialist. And in day 16 of our Learn How to Study Abroad in 30 Days, we are going to be talking specifically about what you are going to do if your study abroad plans do not work out. So we know that sometimes this happens, unfortunately, and we definitely want you to have a plan B, C, D, E, and however many more you want to. So let's go ahead and dive into the video now. So for today's module, we are going to be picking up from where we left off yesterday, and we're going to be discussing backup plans if study abroad does not work out for you after you submit your applications. So when it comes to having a backup plan for study abroad, I just feel like this is a great idea to just use in life in general, is that we always plan for plan A. Plan A is the number one. It's our top choice. It is what we want to work out because that's going to make our life perfect and we're never going to have problems again. At least that's what we think. But sometimes things do not work out, and there could be a variety of reasons for that. For, let's say, in this particular context for your study abroad, maybe the programs that you apply for, you just don't get into them, or perhaps you get into them, but then the financial piece doesn't work out, or maybe you ended up thinking it was going to be one thing, and then as you go along in the process, it doesn't work out. Maybe you don't get the visa issued. Maybe there's a global pandemic and everything stops. You never know what is going to happen in this world. And so even though plan A is the choice, you have to think about what plan B, plan C, plan D. If you're someone like me, you have up to plan G and beyond. But I always like to say that particularly for students who are either going to be heading into university, or if you are currently in college and university, that this is the time where you start really trying to think about how you want to level up things, because you are looking forward towards that career, whatever you want to do in your life. And you always want to have things going on. So I always like to stress this particularly to my American students that, from the time that we were little, we've always had the summers off. That kind of stops now. It is cute to have the summers off when you are 12, 13, 14. But after that, you really need to always be doing something. And if you are from around the world, chances are you probably don't have a lot of time off during the summer. You probably have like different breaks. But regardless, it doesn't mean that you always just want to be working, or doing different things. But you always want to make sure that you are putting yourself in a position to be as competitive as possible. So for me, I didn't really have summers off after the age of 14. I was always out there doing an internship, or, doing a volunteer experience, or doing something that was enriching. Part of that was, it was required by my family, that they really, really focused on that you're not just going to be spending a lot of time doing idle things, like you're not a little kid anymore. However, it was all enriching towards thinking forward to my career. And so I always like to just give that to the students that I work with, that you definitely want to have fun. You want to take time off. It doesn't mean that you are just hard going all the time, but that whatever you are doing past the age of about 16 every year until you get to adulthood, and then you relish just having one day off, even if you own your own business, because it's a lot of hard work once you actually become an adult. But you want to be doing things that are enriching. So if study abroad does not work out for you, what are some of the other things that you can do? I want you to actually sit down again, as you have been doing throughout this series, and write down some of the things that you can do either during that semester, or let's say you were going to study abroad during the summer and it didn't work out. What are some of the things that you can do? So some ideal backup plans. Again, this is not all encompassing, but it is just ideas of what you can do. So thinking about perhaps maybe the types of programs that you applied for just weren't right for you. And of course, it's a little bit disappointing because we covered everything. You've gone through this entire process, but you realize that maybe throughout the time period when you were waiting to hear back from your program, you had a huge shift in your career, and you're like, actually, now these programs are not going to work for me. I do want to study abroad, but I'm going to need to go back to day one and start from scratch and find programs that are going to be more relevant to me now. Or maybe you realize, like, you know what, I wanted to go during the summer, but I actually want something a little bit longer. Or maybe you want to also do an internship component, and your summer program is not going to give you that. So even though it would have been a great opportunity, you're going to have to pass on it and move on to something else. That totally happens. So just because you don't study abroad right when you thought you would, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to do it. So a potential backup plan is to decide to go later, or to maybe just say, like, I want to put it off for now, but maybe I'm going to do it down the road. Internships are also going to be a great sort of filler for not studying abroad, particularly if it's in the summertime, or during your break time, but this could be anytime. Even if you are lucky enough to get an internship abroad. Internships abroad are not always considered study abroad. There are some that are. I know, for example, for me, when I was in undergrad, I did an internship in London. This was way before I actually went there to grad school and everything. But I did an internship in London, but it was connected to academics. So we had an academic piece and then an internship piece. There are some programs that are just fully internship. So you may get the opportunity to still go abroad, but it may be in the form of an internship. There's nothing wrong with that. It is not considered study abroad in that way, but there still may be an opportunity to get credits, or at the very least, you're building your network. So it doesn't mean that all is lost just because what you're doing, let's say abroad, is not within the framework of a traditional study abroad program. So think about that. The other thing too is that perhaps volunteering might work for you. I know that in the beginning, back in the day of this series, we talked about the fact that a lot of mission-based trips and a lot of volunteer trips are not necessarily considered study abroad. But if what is important to you is the element of travel abroad and of spending time abroad, if that was going to be more important to you than the actual study piece and of, earning the credits abroad and doing the academic side of things, then a mission trip or some type of volunteering that will get you abroad, or even if it's at home, if you feel like, you know what, I want to put off study abroad for right now, but there's this organization that I feel very passionate about that I really want to spend some time, spend my semester or spend my summer volunteering with, that is still very noble, still very worth it. And I think that, the lessons that you learn from that, it could potentially help you in the future if you want to study abroad, because you're going to be learning a lot. You're going to be learning new lessons, making new connections with people. So don't feel like all is lost if it doesn't work out this first time around. I know for some students that I have worked with and coached in the past, that's how it was. They ended up going through all of this and they're like, I feel so defeated, but they're like, I want to still go back and try and do it again. And then they did. They applied for a different study abroad program, and it actually turned out to be better than what they would have done that first time around, because it was something that they really wanted and aligned more. I think that alignment is going to be the most important thing to think about, that sometimes things don't align, and it typically means that it's not right for you right then, but it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. So just keep that in mind as you sort of think through this of, you're kind of in this waiting period now that you've submitted everything. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean it's not right now. It just means that, even though it's not right now, it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen for you. So just keep that in mind. And so while this video was a little bit less high tempo than the rest, I, as always, want to be realistic with you and just have you keep in mind that sometimes plans do not work out. And so we want you to find something that is going to be useful to you during this time, even if you can't study abroad, with the caveat that perhaps you might be able to go in the future. So definitely think that over and start thinking of some things that you might be able to do in lieu of studying abroad in case you do not get into any of your programs. And I will see you in tomorrow's video.